Welcome to the modern man's edge. They're looking for something, anything to latch on to.
And the cost isn't just in how they see themselves, but how they engage with the world around them.
They're pulling bits and pieces from influencers, rappers, and these guys with flashy cars.
When they see men who lead with integrity and vulnerability, it begins to change how they approach life. Mandela didn't just lead, he embodied the principles we're talking about. He showed the world that true strength lies not in retaliation.
Too many guys out here acting like soldiers, just obeying whatever culture throws their way.
But be prepared, because it won't be easy. There will be moments when you doubt yourself, when the world feels heavy.
And rewarding doesn't even begin to cover it. Because when you start living with intention, the world around you changes.
On that note, we'll leave you with this. The future is waiting for you. But it begins with the choice you make today.
Welcome to the modern man's edge, where we cut through the noise, kill the confusion, and talk real about what it means to be a man in today's world.
Yeah, this isn't your typical surface-level motivation. We're going deep. Real stories, raw truth, no filters. If you're tired of being lost in the scroll, stuck in the cycle, or just searching for something more, you're in the right place.
All right, let's start with this. Masculinity today? It's all over the place. Guys are being hit with this crazy mix of messages. You've got to be tough, but not too tough. Be vulnerable, but not weak. Like, what does that even mean?
It's an impossible balancing act, really. Society tells young men that traditional masculinity is toxic, but then expects them to embody strength and resilience, particularly during times of crisis. It's no wonder many are left confused, doubting not only their actions, but their very identity.
Exactly. And social media? Man, it's pouring fuel on the fire. These young guys, half their time is spent chasing likes, trying to look like they've got it all together while inside, they're falling apart.
That's the most troubling part, isn't it? Algorithms care about engagement, not authenticity. So the louder, the brasher, the more exaggerated the persona, the more validation it receives. Subtlety and sincerity simply don't go viral.
Yeah. And it traps them, right? Like they've got to keep up this facade or they're nothing. I heard about this guidance counselor, actually, to prove how bad it's getting. He said he sees boys mimicking these over-the-top hypermasculine acts they see online. They think that's what it means to be a man. You know, loud, aggressive, flashy cars, zero depth.
It's heartbreaking, because at its core, that's not masculinity. It's a performance, a desperate attempt to earn acceptance in a world that has stripped away their foundation. These boys aren't finding identity. They're adopting shallow archetypes, driven more by fear of rejection than strength of character.
Yeah, and it's not like it's their fault. Nobody's teaching them what's real anymore. They're looking for something, anything to latch on to. And what's sad, this fake version of masculinity, the one they're chasing, it's eating them alive from the inside out.
Precisely, without an internal compass, something stable and grounded, they're left adrift, letting fleeting trends and superficial influences shape them. And the cost isn't just in how they see themselves, but how they engage with the world around them.
Exactly. It's like they're looking for validation outside themselves when the real answer's got to come from inside. But how can they figure that out with all this noise? And you know, it makes me think, if these guys are struggling to find something stable within, maybe it's because they're missing stability at home. When the father's not there, or when he is, but he's checked out, it leaves this gaping void. It's like trying to navigate life without a map.
Absolutely. A father, or any responsible male figure for that matter, provides a crucial framework for understanding life. Without it, these boys are left to wander through their formative years trying to piece things together. And often they draw from broken examples in the culture around them.
Yeah, that's it. They're pulling bits and pieces from influencers, rappers, and these guys with flashy cars. And because there's nobody there to say, hey, this ain't it, they start thinking toxic traits like rage or dominance. That's strength.
Which of course it isn't. Real strength lies in restraint and responsibility. Yet if no one models that for them, how would they know? Lacking authentic examples, they mistake bravado for masculinity. And ultimately, as you mentioned earlier, it eats them alive.
Exactly. And here's the kicker. Boys crave role models. They might not say it, might not show it, but deep down, they want someone to guide them, someone to prove there's more to being a man than what's trending online.
That's where mentorship comes in. What these boys are truly searching for is connection, and mentorship fills that void in a way culture never can. You take something like that initiative down in Southside Chicago, a program designed to pair young men with responsible male mentors. It's remarkable. These boys aren't just learning skills, they're discovering purpose.
Oh, I heard about that. They've got these mentors taking the time to show up for these kids consistently. And over time, you see the difference. It's not just about grades or staying out of trouble. It's about reshaping how they see themselves.
Exactly. When they experience unconditional guidance, when they see men who lead with integrity and vulnerability, it begins to change how they approach life. Suddenly, they're not just surviving, they're thriving with a renewed sense of direction.
And it's proof. It's proof that mentorship works. That when men step up and invest in the next generation, lives change. Like, we're building the future one young man at a time. And you know, the thing about mentorship, it's not just about showing these boys a better way. It's about helping them realize that ultimately, the life they want starts with their own choices. At some point, every guy has to look in the mirror and ask himself, what am I doing with my life? That's where it begins. Taking ownership. Mentors might guide, but nobody's going to hand you the life you want. You've got to claim it.
Exactly. Ownership is the foundation of any meaningful transformation. It's about realizing that none of us can rewrite where we've come from, but we can certainly dictate where we're heading. And that shift, from blaming others to taking responsibility, well, it's immensely freeing.
Right. Because when you own your life, you start making intentional choices. You know, instead of drifting or following the crowd, you're building something solid. Like, it's not just about living for today. It's about thinking, what do I want to leave behind?
Precisely. And legacy isn't about fame or fortune. It's about impact. It's about how you live your values. Courage, honor, compassion. Things that aren't flashy but stand the test of time.
It reminds me of people like Nelson Mandela. Here's a guy who could have been consumed by anger, spent 27 years in prison, and still found the strength to lead with forgiveness. That's a man taking ownership of his story, turning pain into purpose.
Absolutely. Mandela didn't just lead, he embodied the principles we're talking about. He showed the world that true strength lies not in retaliation, but in restraint and resilience. It's a reminder that leadership isn't loud. It's consistent. It's enduring.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's not about being perfect or having it all figured out. It's about showing up every single day, doing the hard work when nobody's watching. That's how legacies get built.
And it's often in those small, consistent actions where the most profound impact is felt. Planting seeds today that might not blossom for years, but knowing you're contributing to something greater than yourself.
Exactly, man. And here's the tough part. It's easy to make excuses to say, I didn't have a good start, or the world's against me. But the truth? None of that defines you unless you let it.
So true. Your circumstances can shape your perspective, but they don't have to dictate your destiny. And the title of your story? That's entirely up to you.
But it starts with that commitment, right? To the small steps, the daily grind. And in the middle of all that work, you start realizing who you really are and what you're capable of. And that's the challenge, right? In a world full of distractions, taking ownership of your life isn't just about knowing where you want to go. It's about cutting through all the noise telling you who you're supposed to be. Everyone's got advice. Trends are pulling you in every direction. But at the end of the day, it's about grounding yourself and figuring out your values. That's how you begin to own your path.
Exactly. And that process, reclaiming your identity, isn't about following someone else's script. It's about anchoring yourself in values, in habits, in the things that genuinely build you as a person. Take, for example, the warrior versus the soldier. A soldier merely follows orders, but a warrior is driven by principles, by a code. That's what sets him apart.
And man, that's the problem. Too many guys out here acting like soldiers, just obeying whatever culture throws their way. But being a warrior, that's next level. That's stepping up, taking charge, and saying, I decide what drives me.
Right, and it starts small. Daily routines, simple but profound commitments that shape how you live. Wake up early, not because it sounds impressive, but because it cultivates discipline. Train your body, not out of vanity, but because physical strength promotes mental resilience. Pray or meditate, connect with something higher than yourself to find clarity and purpose.
Yeah, because those habits, they're not about anyone else. They're about you, about building structure in a chaotic world. You stick to them, and suddenly, the noise starts fading. You stop running blind.
Precisely. And as that clarity emerges, so does your path. You begin to realize you're not just existing, you're creating. You're forging a life of meaning, one decision at a time. But be prepared, because it won't be easy. There will be moments when you doubt yourself, when the world feels heavy.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You're not alone in this. You're not the first guy to feel lost, and you won't be the last. That's why finding brotherhood, a community of men walking the same path, is a game changer. Surround yourself with people who push you, keep you grounded, and call you out when you're slacking.
Indeed, and that brotherhood isn't just about camaraderie, it's about accountability. It's about sharpening one another, challenging each other to rise above mediocrity. Remember, the lone wolf may survive for a while, but true strength is found in connection, in collective growth.
Exactly. Look, no one's coming to save you. This isn't a superhero movie. If you're waiting for someone to swoop in and fix your life, you're wasting time. You've got to rise. You've got to decide that no matter how hard it gets, you're going to show up for yourself every single day.
And that decision, to rise, that's where the transformation begins. It's not about perfection, it's about persistence. Small, consistent actions, layered over time, will change the trajectory of your life. It's a slow process, yes, but it's also deeply rewarding.
And rewarding doesn't even begin to cover it. Because when you start living with intention, the world around you changes. You stop just surviving. You start thriving. You stop moving with the crowd, and you start leading yourself. That's the power of doing the work.
Absolutely. And here's the takeaway. This isn't just about who you are today. It's about the man you're building for tomorrow, for your family, for your community. Because when men rise, everyone around them rises too.
So don't wait. Don't overthink it. Take one step right now, and then another. Stack those small wins, brick by brick, and before you know it, you've built something unshakable.
And remember, you don't have to do it perfectly. Real masculinity isn't about never failing. It's about getting back up, staying grounded, and helping others rise with you. That's how legacies are born.
And that's what this podcast is all about. Helping you see that you've got what it takes. Right here, right now. So let's get after it. This is your call to rise.
On that note, we'll leave you with this. The future is waiting for you. But it begins with the choice you make today. Until next time, stay grounded, stay committed, and start building the man you're meant to be.
If today's episode sparked something in you, like, comment, and share it with a brother who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe to The Modern Man's Edge. We're just getting started.
Until next time, stand tall, stay sharp, and remember, your edge isn't given. It's earned. See you in the next episode.